Is it still windy up there, Seth, or has it died down a little bit?
Not bad today.
Man, that was insane this weekend. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, wasn't it, Marv?
It's terrible. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
All right, here we go.
Sunbelt Syndicate.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate, but not just any edition. We've got a tournament preview for you guys tonight. Seth, Marv, how we doing tonight?
Good, man. Glad to be here.
Good, brother. Alive. We're good.
Yeah, we're alive. I'm Warhawked out tonight in honor of Coach Fed. He was nice enough to make time and interact with us and send us some stuff. And now, sadly, no longer with the Warhawks as the contract essentially was expiring and they chose not to renew it. You know, obviously not finishing towards the top of the conference will also do that, but really good guy, good human being. You can see maybe here if I go into this solo outfit real quick. This is a handwritten note that says ULM baseball on it that was written by Coach Fed when he sent us the stuff. So huge shout out to him. Good human being. I've seen a lot of people share stories about how good of a guy he is overall, not just a baseball coach, but we know those guys that were playing for him this year. Obviously sad to see those types of things happen, but this is now, it really has been for a while, but even more so now than ever, a business. And sometimes these things have to happen. But yeah, we still love Coach Fed. And if he ever wants to come on the show now, yeah, we're all for it. So maybe
and I'll pull for that guy wherever he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Ben James jumping in saying, what's up, everybody? And go Red Wolves, as we know, A-State in the tournament for the first time since 2021. Big jump from last year, right, fellas? Seth, you were the one, it was like a 9, 10, 11 game win streak to start the year. Then they kind of fell off and didn't make the tournament last year.
Yeah, I think it was like, yeah, they dropped off pretty, I wouldn't say halfway through last year, a little bit before halfway, but they started off really hot and then struggled, and good for them. That's good for you too, Ben. That's a team we don't talk about a whole lot. And we're definitely rooting for you guys this week.
Yeah, that's something you can build off of, right? Like incremental steps every single year.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Special shout out to Phenom Elite in the top there. We want to focus on them. Haven't done that a lot. Going to get that going a lot further when it gets towards football season. Got a lot of stuff we're going to be working on in the off season with them, but they are front and center there. There is a discount code. I need to start sharing that on all the socials when we put this thing out. But let's get to why we are here tonight. The Sun Belt Baseball Championship happening in Montgomery, Alabama, starting tomorrow afternoon, and we'll preview some of those early round matchups. But I've got this episode name Chalk with 3 dots and a question mark, because what we saw this past weekend, so we'll go ahead and jump into that a little bit too, is that a precursor to what we're going to see in this tournament. And let's start with Thursday. I don't know, again, we'll just kind of run through these somewhat quickly, but here's the scores as they started out for the weekend. The last weekend of regular season baseball, again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there were no Sunday games. Give them just that little bit of extra rest before they head to Montgomery for the 10 teams out of the 14 teams participating in this one. Marv, let's start with you. Any big surprises or shocks on Thursday afternoon or evening?
I think, well, Arkansas State going to Louisiana and taking that game, I thought that was a shock. And the way that Troy Southern Miss game ended was I thought Troy was going to take it. You get your first 2 batters on. Sunbelt Syndicate alum starts them off with a single. You get the next runner on, and then the bunt. That thing, anything but a pop up, they tie the game because they had 2 consecutive ground balls after that. So, heartbreaker to see Troy lose at home like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth, any big shocks or surprises for you Thursday starting it off?
I watched almost the entire Coastal ODU game. ODU jumped out 3-0, and then I think Coastal tied it back up in the 7th. and then, if I remember correctly, pulled away in the ninth. They scored 3 in the ninth. I think ODU threatened in the bottom with a couple on, no outs, and couldn't scratch one across. We're not seeing Coastal blow teams out a lot. We're watching Coastal find ways to win ball games. It's just overall a great baseball team, just finding ways to win ball games. They're used to winning, and that helps a lot. Other than that, like Marv said, I watched almost a lot of the Troy game as well. A little upsetting for Troy. Like Marv said, 2 on, nobody out. You got your winning run on first, and you can't get them around. So I think it was that was a little precursor to the weekend for Troy to begin with, and it never got better. Southern Miss is who Southern Miss is, and I think we talked yesterday, Dominic. I'll leave that the comment you're going to make. I'll leave that for you to make, but I think teams have separated themselves, and then maybe one splits that, but then the rest is just everybody falls in order after that.
Yeah, one that and I want to get to Attack Eagles comment here. The Eags are going for 3 straight Sun Belt championships and a chance to host. The Eags are hot, 15 straight W's. Yeah, that was one of the notes for sure. They have 15. Coastal has 14. So we got
a couple hot teams coming into the tournament, to be completely honest. Because don't look now, but Marshall swept their last 2 series. Ended up getting the 4 seed.
I know, right? This is crazy. So we'll talk about that.
So what?
Dom, did you find the clip?
Find the clip.
It was about week 5 we were on here, and if we had to pick I believe somebody picked Marshall to finish 4th.
Would that be you, the mayor of Huntington?
Yeah, and what do you know? I was right again.
You are. You will soon be a newly elected official in the town of Huntington, West Virginia. So
you'll run unopposed, man. You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that shocked me the most, just to quickly touch on it, Texas State needed something to happen here. It could have got close to a top seed, actually, in the top 3 or 4 there. Not 3, sorry, 4 or so. I think they could have been, but they lose the first game 9-4 to JMU. So that was a little shock to me. The Georgia State App State one, not really a shock. I knew that was a little bit of a toss-up. Both teams coming in off long losing streaks. It was going to be who was going to be just a little bit better there at the end. That next game, 20-10, is insanity. I don't even really know what to say about it, but that one's the one that caught me off guard out of Friday's slate for sure. Not necessarily again that Georgia State won again, but how they won.
Yeah.
I
think Arkansas State going down there, taking the second game, 10-run rule in Cajuns at home. Obviously, the Cajuns aren't what they were in years past this year, but to get 10-run ruled, and then Southern Miss making a short day. I mean, not a super short day, but another 10-run rule at Troy. That's not shocking, but still somewhat surprising, especially after such a close game the night before.
Yeah,
Dominic, you know how this is playing out, right? We're going to quit talking about Troy because they just come off a sweep, and watch, they'll win the whole dang thing now. That's the way it goes.
I've got some stats that I actually leaned on last year. We'll see if they really help. Last year, it wasn't as big of a telling statistic necessarily, but it was an interesting one that I went through the exercise again this time around to kind of see if it's going to lend itself to be a little more meaningful this year than it was last year. But let's check out how it all ended up, and we'll see the series finals here. Again, Marshall, very surprising to us. I don't think – oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Seth, did you have Marshall winning this even though no one got it 3-0? You had Marshall winning 2-1 in this one?
I believe so.
Okay, we'll jump over there in a second and double check it. But yeah, I think Marv, you and I both took Southern to win this one, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah.
I stand corrected on Coastal not blowing anybody out. Those last 2 games were a combined 20 runs they won by. So Coastal found a way to win Friday night and didn't even make it close the rest of the weekend.
No. Yeah. That and to the credit of ODU fans, a lot of them knew Friday was or Thursday night was their best shot because that was their best pitcher going up against Coastal's lineup. And like you said, Seth, they were up to a 3-0 lead early, and they thought that you never celebrate, but I think they thought it was looking good. Like this is the game we kind of thought we would see, from the ODU side of things. And I mean, I told you, didn't I, Seth? I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't get too worried just yet. I mean, Coastal down 6-0 to ULM in the first game of that series, and they came back and won that one 8-6 the week before. So they have a propensity to stay with it and turn it around. There it seems like.
And how about App squeaking one out? Man, they needed that game. They lose that game, they don't make the tournament.
No. And Georgia State does. I mean, that's how big that one was. Kind of a really cool de facto game to be at. It was obviously there was a whole nother purpose for being in Boone, which was actually Seth's baby shower. So shout out Seth for that going on. But the wife said, "Yeah, you want to go to the baseball?" This was weeks ago. She's like, "You want to go to the baseball game?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to go to another baseball game since we don't get up there that often." And so we got tickets, and it turns out to be a de facto play-in game for the Sun Belt tournament because no matter who had won that game, both teams, South Alabama could have been tied with a record. They would have held the tiebreaker over App, but they would not have held the tiebreaker over Georgia State. And if Georgia State were to have won, there's no way South Alabama could have been in. So if App State won, they were in. That's what happened. But had Georgia State won, they'd have been in because they had the tiebreaker. They swept South Alabama earlier in the season. So I saw some people kind of questioning that at the end because the records would have been the same had some stuff happened. But, it came down to the end, man. It had a little bit of everything. I put the tweet up on Twitter, and there was a coach thrown out. There was home runs. There was great defensive plays, and there was a one-run game in the ninth to finish it off. So it was exciting from beginning to end. It was a pretty windy day up in Boone, but it was a very nice day overall as far as the temperature goes. So, yeah, I'm not complaining. It was a nice day to go see a baseball game.
Isn't it wild how we could talk about a team that's in the middle of the pack and no knock on Marv by any means, but we were sitting here talking about what team A needs to do to make a run at this thing, and then you hit a buzzsaw in the top two teams in the conference, and then you're talking about having to win your last game just to get into your conference tournament. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit I've talked about how weak this conference is this year, minus 3 teams, but minus those 3 teams, you still got to win your ball games. They went to South Alabama, lost one or only won 1 out of 3 there, and it was just a slide after the middle. Those 2 ranked conference series, and then it's just a slide after that. So I mean, you got to take your wins when you can get them, and then hope to pull at least 1 out of those series. And it just didn't work out, and now they're in the they're gonna have to claw their way back into this thing tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, they will. So this is the final look of the standings before we get to that part, because that's going to be the fun part. But this is how it played out, right? We now know that we only have 2 teams remaining in the top 25 after Troy gets swept. And let's be honest, they hadn't swept a series all season. They hadn't lost a series all season, which is really impressive. But not sweeping a series all season, I think, was kind of always going to have them on that low side of the 20s for the top 25. And once they got swept out by a team that's an undoubted top 25 team, now they're on the outside looking in. That's not to say it's going to be all that bad for their seeding as far as postseason stuff goes. I don't think they're in any danger of missing the tournament. I mean, do you guys?
I think they're in danger of being a 3.
They could be a 3.
That's what I was thinking. If they end up 3rd in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, they could very easily be a 3 seed.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to go ahead. You want to debate the question I asked both of y'all earlier?
Not just yet.
If it comes down to Coastal and Southern Miss, does the winner, Coastal, receive a national seed, which could lead to a super regional? Southern Miss wins. Do they host a regional?
I think yes is the answer to both questions.
Okay. I think you're right.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Coastal's hosting a regional regardless.
Yeah.
Unless they get bounced very early in the tournament. But if they make it to the final, they're definitely hosting. I would be shocked if they weren't. I think the only way I could see them not, and you start looking at geography, right? You've got NC State, who I think won the ACC regular season. Georgia Tech. Okay, so they lost the last game. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they would have to have a poor performance.
If you're Southern Miss, you want to see Coastal in the final for RPI relevance because, like you said earlier, the 3-game sweep off Troy barely did anything for you. You want to play Coastal. You want to beat Coastal twice if you have to.
Yeah. That'll go a long way. But then you're probably taking a host away from Coastal if you do that.
You think they lose a host?
Possible. I don't know.
They're as high as 11.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
We saw the respect they were given last year, right? I mean, they weren't as good as they had been. That was the first time App beat them in a season series ever, right? They didn't come in with the greatest of records. They were kind of on that cusp. They had to have a good tournament to kind of really make it. They did, and then they performed pretty well. So I think you're going to kind of you don't want stuff to carry over year to year if you're just an outsider saying like, well, it shouldn't matter what they did last year. But you know,
this year you've got a good Coastal team.
Yeah.
Right. But then that's the thought process is like they belong here. They've been here. You know what I mean? Like in the back of your head, you can't eliminate that. That's the human part of it, right? Like they're gonna like Coastal. Yeah, that name rings true to me as they should be here or they deserve to be here. So I think that's going to play a part in some people's decisions. And again, unless, like Marv says, they go out super early in this tournament, I mean, I think they've got the inside track, but they do have to take care of some business. I don't think it's going to be gifted to them by any means for sure. And Southern Miss is extremely unlikely to host at all. But if they make it to the final and some other stuff goes their way, maybe they still got a shot. If they win this tournament, then I would say they got a much better shot, especially if some other stuff helps them on the outside looking in.
So us three having no dog in the fight with these top two teams, if we're pulling for the conference solely, we want to see Southern Miss win the conference championship. Am I right?
I think
if we have no dog in the fight at all.
I think if you're if you're talking in respect to what allows two Sunbelt teams to host a regional,
correct,
then best case scenario would be Southern Miss beats Coastal in the championship game and they both host.
That would be again, like you said, Seth, as an outsider who's just saying like what's best for the conference, you want these two dominant forces to meet in the final. And you want it to be like a walk-off, hell of a defensive baseball team game, right? Like a 2-1 final in 11 innings, like where they're like neither team was willing to lose, but somebody finally had to. It's like that's the kind of thing where it's okay.
Middleton versus Morrison on the mound and just a absolute pitcher's duel.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, maybe outsiders who want to see a Georgia State App State 20-10 game would be disappointed, but I know us that have been watching baseball all season would love to see just a heck of a baseball game, no matter what the score is. So, Buzzball saying the only time USM will see Coastal is in the championship game, and it's winner take all. So USM can't beat them twice.
Is that correct? And you talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, unless the
championship's a single game.
Unless the setups changed, they used to have it set up so that you had to win.
Game.
Okay.
So I guess for Southern Miss, best case scenario is have to face Troy again at some point, highest RPI team outside of Coastal that they're going to see, win that game, and then beat Coastal in the championship game. A couple other things go right, like you said, outside of the conference. I mean, it's not unrealistic for two teams to host. I mean, hell, they're the number 12 team in the country, right? I'd have to check and see what their RPI is because their ranking just changed But I think it's a little bit of a long shot, but I think they're clearly a number 2 seed somewhere.
Yeah, if they're not a number 2 seed with an AD on the committee, there's something wrong. Whether that's right or wrong,
it's not going to be as much as we've talked about those two teams. It won't be either one of them. You watch.
And that's what we're going to get into here in a second. But before we do that, the weekly series picks have wrapped up. Yes, the records look pretty atrocious overall. Again, for those who are either joining us for the first time, checking this show out because it's the conference tournament preview, the way we work this is you have to get the games exactly correct. You can't get close. You can't get just the winner. You have to nail the exact outcome of the series to be awarded a win. Otherwise, it's a loss. So yeah, the records aren't great. That's what sets us apart from how everybody else does this. There's no easy stuff given out or handed away in this thing. So with that being said, last week or this past weekend, I only got one right. I only got Coastal. Seth and Marv both had 2, and obviously both had Coastal as well. But you guys had different picks. So interesting. Let me hear, Marv, you start off with your ULM and South Alabama pick, and then Seth, you followed up with why you took A-State over Louisiana.
All right. Well, first of all, let me say this. 2 years in a row, I'm the 2-time defending champion. I am the best at being bad. So take that. Let's go. My thought process behind that was ULM's was dead last in the conference, right? And South Alabama had a chance to make the tournament. Thought they'd get 2 out of 3. I think last time we were looking, you had Georgia State at number 10. I said, hey, I think you take that cat out and put the Jaguar in. And that's how it ends up. Also was assuming that App was going to take 2 out of 3 from Georgia State at that point. I've seen South Alabama play some really good teams really hard in series and felt like they would come out and do enough to get in the tournament. That was my logic behind it. And hey, not surprisingly, I was wrong.
But still a good pick. Seth?
First of all, Ben's my boy. So I was rolling with the Red Wolves. I think the Raging Cajuns I think they folded in a few weeks ago and just not what we thought they were this year, what we thought they could have been this year. And Arkansas State's riding a little bit of momentum. So, anything can happen any given night. I felt in my heart that Ben was really pulling, a little bit angels in the outfield. He was going to pull them through. And Arkansas State just it was the year of the wolf, man. You can't say anything else. It's destiny.
There you go. I love it. So yeah, once again, congrats to the champion, Marv. As he says, back to back. I'd have to go look at the record from last year. I want to see if you beat it. I would assume you did. 30 wins.
I don't know, man. That was that's a pretty terrible performance overall. I'm just like you said, we grade hard, but being 30 and 44 is nothing to be proud of. If you were in Vegas, you've lost money.
True.
Yeah. But we'll take it. I beat you two guys, and that's all I care about.
True. Silva is going to have Arky State in the top 4 of the conference in 2 years. Book it. That's what Buzzard Ball is saying right there from a USM fan. All right. So with that being said, congrats to Marv. We move on to the Sun Belt Conference Tournament single elimination. Up to bat on Tuesday, we've got number 7 seed Texas State taking on number 10 seed App State. That one a 4 Eastern, 3 Central time pitch. Then we have that one followed by number 8 Arkansas State playing number 9 Georgia Southern. That one a roughly 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central start time again, because if this first one goes long, then that one is going to affect the second time. All games, as we know, on ESPN Plus, with the championship game being on, I believe, ESPN. No, it's saying ESPN Plus, unfortunately. Well, you got to think that they would try and flex that. If it ends up being Coastal in Southern Miss,
Coastal, that's got to at least make it to the Ocho, right?
You would hope.
We got a big slate of WNBA this weekend we can't miss, so it's probably going to be stuck to the plus.
Oh man! Look, oh, we got a fact checker for Chat GPT. Southern Miss RPI is 21. That says
He is correct. It is 21. You would think we found out last year how important RPI is. You would think they need to be in the top 16.
Yeah, interesting, and it's again kind of sad that where Troy was all season long. This is a team that I think in D1 baseball, if I'm not mistaken, they were ranked every single week of the season except now.
Yep,
we're getting into the postseason, and they weren't duly rewarded for sweeping a team like that, which I think is kind of crazy. Like, how do you not? There's some kind of metric in the RPI that's wrong if you sweep a team that hasn't lost a series all season. It'd be one thing if you beat them 2-1 and it was close and everything else. Maybe you don't move up much there. You swept a team that hadn't been beat by a number of other good teams all season long. So I don't know how you don't get better rewarded for such a feat, but hey, there it is. All right, so let's
think about the grand scheme of it. We're arguing. I mean, if we're boasting ourselves for the conference, we're arguing why a 21st ranked RPI team is not higher. You know, that says a lot within itself, I think.
Yeah.
Well, saying,
consider the fact they swept a top 25 team on the road.
Right.
I think that, so their ranking reflects that, right? I think they moved up, 7 spots in the ranking?
Yeah, they did do a big jump in the ranking.
But they literally stayed flat RPI. They were 21.
Well, your boss said they moved up 9 positions.
9 positions, which he's saying is a huge jump that late in the season. But I would say, I would argue, like, you have SEC teams and ACC teams that are playing teams that don't have as good of a record that are doing something, and they're jumping probably more, right? Like, it's still weighted in favor of them compared to a conference like the Sun Belt, which, once again, they want to attach that mid-major moniker and everything. And this year, like Seth said, overall, besides the top 2-3 teams, we are down. Okay, there's no lying about that. It's not hard to see. But we do have some surprise teams, and I think that we had some teams, again, right now on screen. Texas State took out some really good baseball teams on some midweek. So, I just, the mid-major moniker.
Here's the bad news for App, besides the fact they just have not been playing good baseball. Keeping in mind that they swept Texas State at San Marcos this year. You're playing them on a Tuesday. That's no bueno.
Yeah, it's a good point. They have that. Wow, I didn't even think about that part, but that's a great point, Marv.
They're the Tuesday Texas State champions playing in Alabama, but that doesn't bode well.
Yeah, Attack Eagle saying we hosted in 2022 with a 17 RPI. We were the number 12 host site. D1 Baseball said if we win 2 of 3 this weekend, we host, especially if we make the ship. If you make the championship game and you don't host, you're getting robbed. Especially, again, you got an AD on the committee. He better be fighting tooth and nail for that to happen.
That would be just great for the conference. So you can say that we had a down year because we probably only get 3 teams in this year. We've been getting 4 in the past several years. But I think you feel better about yourself if you have 2 teams host.
2 hosts with 1 possible national seed.
Yeah, that'd be phenomenal.
Absolutely. One thing that I hated to hear earlier today, randomly, I'm going to be at an engineering convention in Raleigh the next 2 days, so out and away from the office. So I'll be running the baseball games on my phone with an earpiece in, so I can kind of dually do both things, my job and pay attention. Anyways, because of that, I had to go set up a booth at this thing. So I got to get in the car at a time I usually don't listen to the radio, but XM radio was talking about postseason baseball. And not one friggin' time did the Sun Belt or Coastal Carolina or Southern Miss or Troy enter anyone's mouth. And I think that's a big time mistake. I did hear Northeastern, and they are a hell of a baseball team, so full credit to them. But they were talking about some pitchers who didn't really have any real great pitchers that stood out this year. We're about to get to some of those guys here in a minute, but I was like dumbfounded that yet again, you're staring a conference in the face that has had numerous people ranked within the top 25 over the last several years, but we had 3 within the top 25 most of this season. And you're not talking about one of these teams sneaking up there and knocking somebody off. If they were
talking about them, we wouldn't have a podcast. So I think we're just fine. We wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Maybe. All right. So going back to this, One statistic that I did put together last year that I tried to see if it meant something, right? In a tournament such as this, single elimination, right? One and done, or you move on. But then from there, you have to continue winning, right? So you have to string wins together in any tournament. But this one is obviously very important in that respect. App State has strung together 4 wins this year. It's not a very long win streak, but they have put together 4. Texas State is also only at 4. So it's kind of, I think everything about this matchup to me, except for what Marv just said, is kind of a toss up, right? Like, who are you going to get? Who are you going to see? Both teams have had games where they've looked great, and there's times when they've looked terrible. So I don't know what to expect. I think you toss a coin and you just pick heads or tails and hope that it lands on what you get. Like I don't know. I'm not sure. Seth, do you have a strong feeling of who's going to take that one?
No, neither team can be trusted. So there's no leaning one way or the other. When we thought Texas State would have a great weekend this past weekend and dropped a dud. So App had to win a 1-run ball game on the last day of the season to get in. So no, I couldn't lean one way or another. I'm sure it's probably going to be a bullpen game if I had to guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I mean, you throw everything just so you get into the double elimination part, right? You can't lose this one, but you could technically lose the next one and still be okay a little bit. So we'll see. All right, next one, A-State, Georgia Southern. I mean, this one I have a stronger feeling of. I don't know about you guys. Marv, we'll start with you since Seth ended that last one.
Yeah, I think I made it clear how I feel about the first one, despite the massive amounts of black and gold stuff there in this room that I'm sitting in. I don't feel good about that game. Man, this is a coin toss to me, but I feel like Arkansas State's coming in a little hotter than Georgia Southern. So I would pick the Red Wolves to advance.
Seth?
Yeah, the Wolves are howling. Riding a little momentum. Georgia Southern's just been too inconsistent. So we'll ride with the hot hand. The hottest hand out of those 4 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think A-State is the hottest team out of those 4 single elimination teams. So I would not be shocked at all for them to move on.
Replace their second to last series with Southern Miss on the year and replace that with like a South Alabama. We could be talking about, a 4th place Arkansas State team not even having to play in this playing game.
True. It's a good point.
They hit a hot team at the end of the year, and I'm riding with the Wolves.
And let's talk about that series for just a split second more. They were competitive also against Southern Miss. They didn't get really blown out of the water in any of those games. They were right there in it. So yeah, they didn't win them, but they were darn close. So not much to say there. As far as
who you taking in the first game, Dom?
If I had to take somebody, I'm now after what you've said, Marv, I'll lean Texas State.
Yep,
like you said, they've been midweek champs all season. So
they have been midweek champs.
So
I think the name of the show is chalk, right? So taking both higher seeds.
Yeah, that's a good point. A-State strung 5 wins together at one point this season. Georgia Southern did win 6 straight. Some of the reasons these could be meaningful is if you played 5 or 6 really good teams in a row and you won them. And there's other times where those are less meaningful because you played 2 teams that didn't deserve to be on the field with you. So I didn't break it down that exact, right? So it is what it is. But just looking at how many times they've strung wins together on a basic level, I just want to put that out there again. See if it means a little bit more this season. Destiny's saying their pitching is legit over there at A-State. So Silva's got the guys in the bullpen that he needs. And we would expect them to get it done. Arkansas State has more pitching than any of the other 3. Yeah, I mean, I probably agree with that from what I've heard and seen so far this season. And Buzzerball says a lot more. So, yeah. All right, let's jump into this double elimination, make this a little bit bigger and easier to see as we go along here. This one, again, double elimination, pounding on that because that changes drastically from Tuesday to Wednesday. And Troy is going to be the first game up against ODU, the 3 versus the 6 seed, 10 Eastern. 9 Central. So early morning start for that one locally for Troy there, and a little early for ODU as well. Fellas, thoughts on that one?
Chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. ODU threw out their best pitcher Thursday. That's probably enough rest to get him to go on a Wednesday, full week's rest time almost. Do they try and win? Is there some massive advantage to trying to throw everything you can to win this first game, or save him for an elimination aspect? I don't know. I don't know how much you would look at that as a coach, right? You just go in to try and win the game immediately. Marv, you've got experience as a coach in tournament setting. You have any thought process on that?
Yeah. You can't win the race with your fastest horse in the barn, right? Like if your top guy's ready to go, you throw him, point blank, period. I don't remember the bracket set up. I'd have to look at it. I don't know if they get a day off if they win that game while the loser bracket goes after that. But you got to throw your top arm, in my opinion. So yes, if he's ready to go, you throw him.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there is no tomorrow if you don't win today. So you're throwing everything, the kitchen sinking everything out that day one.
Like it. Okay. I would agree with you guys, but I didn't know if there was maybe something that you thought, take a chance with somebody who you still trust, but you just say, I'm going to save my best for when we absolutely positively know that we can't.
And I think it's situational too, right? Like if you went with your top guy and in the first 3 innings and he's 40, 50 pitches in, it's not looking good, you pull him out and you save him for another day, which would be the following day probably, which is not ideal. But I don't know. You got to think that that Troy's probably going to go with one of their top 2 guys in that game. So you got to go best on best.
Yeah. The next game up, we do not know who will be playing just yet, obviously, because it's going to be Coastal's opportunity to get the lowest remaining seed. So again, it greatly depends on how those games go Tuesday before we know. But Southern Miss will be the next team up to play one of the 4 teams that we will see on Tuesday night. So technically, we don't know the matchup, but I think all of us would favor, again, we named the show Chalk for a reason. I would assume that most people are going to pick Southern Miss no matter who they play. Although the A-State matchup with Southern Miss could be interesting if that one were to happen, which could be realistic, right? I think A-State was the 8th seed, so the 9th they can't be the 9th because Georgia Southern would be the 9th. I guess App State would have to win for that one to happen, actually. Anyways.
Yeah.
We'll move on. Yeah, that's a lot to say. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, so we're going to move on. Coastal would play the lowest remaining seed, again, I don't think we'd be shocking to say that we all expect Coastal against any of those 4 teams to move on, right?
Nope.
All right, so we'll get to the more interesting one. We've got 4 versus 5 for the nightcap. Marshall versus Louisiana, a rematch of the Sun Belt Championship football game. Nothing to do with baseball, just an interesting tidbit. Seth, we're going to start you off here, man. The mayor of Huntington, West Virginia. Tell us what you think.
Going to pick here. You can just bypass this one.
A team that's hot against a team that fell below expectations this year. I'm running. You know who I'm rolling with. Yep. Hey, this is all about the herd and the Wolves tonight. These are hot teams.
And Seth, do you think Bryce starts that game?
Yeah, I do. You got to go ahead and try to. You got to throw out your best arm first.
Yeah, I agree, and I now would pick the same.
Yeah, this is a real interesting one because a lot of these win streaks are close, right? They're 1 or 2 games different. Marshall has strung together 9 wins at one point in time this year. Louisiana, just 4. So if you're going to predict someone to possibly kind of get on a roll and stay on a roll, that one's a little bit more obvious than a lot of the other ones that I've kind of picked out there. So be interesting. A lot of people taking the herd in that one. I think here's another aspect that I'd say, since we're talking about them specifically, if you wondered whether Marshall has a traveling fan base or a baseball fans that really care, if they make it deep into this tournament, you're about to find out. The Herd fans will show up in full force, and you're going to see a lot of Kelly Green around. So don't be shocked if they get there towards the end that you start seeing a little bit more green as the days go on. So will be interesting to see if Marshall can go on a run there. Attack Eagles, to answer your setup question, 2 play-in games Tuesday, 4 games Wednesday, 4 games Thursday, 2 loser bracket games Friday, then 2 Saturday early games if needed. Then Sunday would be the winner take all. So, yeah, that's a big slate. But, that's going to be pretty much the same across the board for all conferences. I don't know if anyone still runs it with the, you have to beat them twice type of thing then if that were to be the case. We'll see, I guess.
Didn't App play Southern Miss twice in the same day a couple years ago to go to the championship game? That was okay. I thought that's what it was.
And that could still happen on Saturday for both teams to get to the championship game. So that could be an interesting aspect depending on who's there. But all right, this is a basic question. We've seen the matchups. We're not going to go all the way through because we have no idea how it's going to play out in the early games to even set up the later games, right? So we've just gone the first round of games essentially for every one that we can. Again, Coastal and Southern Miss do not yet know their opponents, but if you're not taking, we'll save the easy question, right? Coastal and Southern Miss, in all probability, in all likelihood, should end up in the championship game. But we know sports are crazy. Different things happen. Who are you guys taking if not one of those 2 teams? Maybe Troy, but I want to see if anybody else has another one that they think is going to get on a roll here and do some damage.
Seth got that Marshall grin on his face, so I'll go ahead and let him answer that question.
Yeah, you answered it for me. I don't think we can expect much out of Louisiana. Troy's kind of our wild card. They had their big weekend to show what they could do, and Southern Miss showed us that they are who they are, and they're going to find a way to win a ball game. Don't trust ODU at all. Don't trust Texas State, App, Georgia Southern or Arkansas State. Marshall's my best bet. Marshall or Troy. Marshall's come up clutch when nobody's talking about them. I'll go with Marshall.
Interesting.
I'm going to agree with Seth for the simple fact that I think Marshall's the only team that took a series from Southern Miss.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've seen that thrown out there a couple times today.
Marshall, somebody picked that series, right?
Somebody did. I don't remember who it was. Somebody did though.
Gotcha.
Oh, you know what? Man. Yeah, that was a great pick, man.
For the baby shower gift, I'm gonna get you a Marshall onesie.
There you go.
I'll take it.
Oh man, that's so great.
No,
Ben saying
I think
see someone take down Coastal like Liberty did in softball regional versus number 1 seed Texas A&M, and Destiny sleeper pick is the Herd. And this, we heard this from parents when we were sitting there in Boone, right, Seth? They said that most of the team was dealing with some type of sickness. Some, said it was the cold. Some said it was the flu. But either way, it sounds like it's, possibly true. But hey, you still got to go out there. And even the parents said, we're not trying to excuse it, but, there were some kids that were sick at that point. So
I think common sense, like you said, tells us, and we can talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, if we're rolling with a sleeper, we're going with the Herd.
Nice. I'm going to throw a wild card out there and say Troy. I expect Troy to go pretty well in this tournament, but again, they've struggled to win 3 in a row a lot this year. So do I think that they could stumble and then still win their way back? That's why I'm thinking they're still going to be around. Don't think they're going to be up there with Coastal and USM at this point, but we'll see. I think A-State's got a chance, man. I don't know why, but I feel like Silva's really got this team rolling. They had some close games against some really tough opponents. Could they get over the hump a little bit here in the tournament and pull it off? So, yeah,
wouldn't hate it by any means.
Yeah. I mean, we know Ben would love it. So there you go.
I was about to say, did you and Ben James just become best friends? Y'all gonna go do karate in the garage?
Yes.
Brothers.
Attack Eagles and saying Troy is cooked. Louisiana is cooked. Give me the Herd until they meet the Eagles, and then they are cooked. And we had the flu, and they don't want to see us again. Ben is saying that, in his opinion, ODU and A-State are sleepers. So that's the first person I've seen say ODU is a sleeper besides probably Monarch fans. So we'll have to see. Deshaun Walker saying Marshall versus Southern Miss in the final would kind of be something. It really, the burner accounts would have a friggin' field day with that. So I'm here for that if that were to be the case and what actually ends up happening. We've only lost 3 games since the Marshall. So yeah, that you guys have been on an absolute tear, part of that 15-game win streak there. I know Coastal is better on our RPI, but USM versus Marshall final would be fire. Yeah, again, we're not going to get it in football this year unless postseason stuff happens. But yeah, that would be everybody's in for a Marshall USM championship game. So
that would be it's like a storybook ending, right? But that would mean that Coastal doesn't make. I'm looking back through here. I cannot remember. Did Coastal and Southern Miss did not play a series?
No, they did not play. They did not play. That's why everyone keeps going towards the whole what they each did against Marshall. Oh,
yeah.
Coastal would win because they swept Marshall and Marshall beat USM. It's like, well, it's the same thing with football all the time. You can beat somebody 48-3, and then the other team loses 21-7, and then you say, oh, well, they would automatically wipe the floor with them. That's not the case. It's all about matchups, all kinds of different things in that aspect. It's just not equal. So you can't just sit there and say, well, look what Coastal did to them. Obviously, they're the better team. I really don't think – I would love to see this matchup, honestly. I really do hope we get it as an outsider who's not a massive fan of either team, but just loves what it could mean to the conference overall and the people that would watch. It could be the best championship game of conference tournament weekend, right? I mean, you could have some early upsets in the SEC or the ACC, and you end up getting some team that doesn't truly belong there, and they get the floor wiped with them when it gets to the championship game. I don't think I'd see either team destroying the other. Could it happen? Sure. It's baseball. Weird things happen, but I think we'd see one hell of a matchup. So we'll have to see. But Troy beat Coastal and we swept them. So yeah. Again, that's the whole transitive property. So yeah. Yep. There's all kinds of comments coming in now. But this happened and then this happened. Yeah. I mean, you can point to a whole lot of rhetoric and what you think as clues of what could happen. But again, it's all about matchups and about the team, where they're at that specific moment in time. And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen the way everybody thinks it may. So let's get to some of the fun stuff, some of the stuff we have been watching throughout the season. Marv, you want to tell us about the player of the year here a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, this was a no-brainer for me. So Sunbelt came out with their players of the year today, which we had made our choices before this. But, 18 home runs, 66 RBIs, 72 hits. I mean, I think he hit 364 in conference play. Unanimous choice, no-brainer. Dude had a phenomenal year for, the number 12 ranked Eagles. So congratulations to Nick. Definitely deserved it.
I love this nickname here too. Nicky Ball Game. I love that.
It's not a bad one.
No, not at all. I mean, the walk-off, grand slam, home run hitter. It just saved multiple games when it looked like there was just an obvious loss coming their way. It was just, that's the stat that you don't put on the screen because it's hard to measure, right? But that's one of the reasons that he's sitting here as player of the year. And again, not really a shocking surprise. Marv, you really had him picked out last weekend before we even got to this point. So absolutely phenomenal stuff. Destiny saying that's the mayor of Hammond, Louisiana. Oh, BDN. If you don't know what that is, Google it, but not on a work computer, and then you'll figure it out.
The Nick Foles reference, huh?
Yeah, there you go. The Nick Foles reference. For those that don't know that, maybe don't Google that either. We'll see. Pitcher of the year. Marv, you want to talk about this too? Because there's going to be some people that are upset we don't see JB Middleton here instead.
Yeah, well, when I sent you mine, I said 1A and 1B. I could have gone with either guy. I still think if you would have chosen Middleton, you couldn't have got it wrong, and you can't get it wrong with Morrison. Both of them just had absolutely dominant just dominant seasons. I think Morrison got the nod. He had a little bit lower ERA in conference. In conference, he held opposing batting teams to a 162 batting average, which is just phenomenal. Middleton had more strikeouts, but Morrison only walked 8 in conference, which is just amazing command. So, yeah, Morrison, Middleton, you couldn't have gone wrong either way.
No, definitely not. The other big, again, it's not a massive difference at all, but technically Morrison 10-0. Middleton did have that one loss on his record for the year. Again, it's like Marv said, and it's like Schultz said, honestly, on Locked On as well. Like you can't go wrong. You flip a coin here, and you're still going to be right. I was like, if you could give out 2 trophies and split it in half, maybe that's what you should have done. Any thoughts on this?
Once again, after all the herd talk, making it to the championship game, honestly, because they haven't played each other and they are so close pitching wise. Poetic justice would put Coastal and Southern Miss. They both have their 8 arms on the mound and just figure it out.
Yeah. God, I would love to see it. That would be must-see TV. But we'll see if it ends up working out that way or not. Freshman of the year. This is one that differs from what the conference picked. We had these done before theirs came out. But Seth, first of all, make your argument for Lynch, because I know that you wanted probably to see that, and that's who the conference chose as well. But just talk about him for just a second, and then Marv can go off on Jimmy here.
I think he finished at a 340, wasn't he? 340 average.
Who?
Lynch.
Was that in conference play only? Because Jimmy hit like 337 in conference.
I don't know. I just saw where he ended with 340 on the year. But all conference, true freshman. I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy, but all conference as a freshman and player of the year. Either way, I think you can 2 talented, very talented freshmen, but Let's just had first team all conference, and he stayed. I think he was well in the top few with freshmen all year with batting average. So again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy.
No, I think the argument that could be made for Litch, and honestly, the reason I didn't pick him was because didn't want to be an app homer. Jimmy was preseason freshman of the year. Like, this was expected. Troy knew they got a dude when they signed him, right? Lichtenberger was not the day one starter for app, and then
even more reason for him to be freshman of the year.
Yeah, and also a little recency bias. Litch, he fell off the last 6 weeks of the season, in my opinion. But hey, man, it's cool to have this kind of young talent. Like, the fact that we're having to debate this, and the fact that Litch, who the Sun Belt named is the freshman of the year, is on the 10th place team, just kind of speaks to the quality of players that are coming in this conference. I'm sure app fans are praying like hell that you can hold on to a kid like Lichtenberger, whereas I don't think Troy has any thoughts that they're going to lose, Jimmy. But good problems to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should I sell the little quote I had heard on the field there, Seth, from Saturday?
No, probably not.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
all right.
I'd probably.
All right. Well, those are balls throwing out.
Do what?
What was that?
We got something we got to offline here. You guys got some insider info that you don't want to break?
I mean, go for it, Dom. It's common sense.
All right, so it's not the worst thing. I think it was a little bit. Yeah, it's common sense. It's not shocking, but I think it was also like a little bit of head games, maybe. First of all, before I do that, Buzzerball shouting out Drake Barrett as well. Attack Eagles agreeing with that. They're saying he is a dog there. So maybe another name to look out for going into next season again. But yeah, the second baseman for Georgia State, who got ribbed himself a little bit with the fans at App State as he got into the batter's box when we first got there early in the game. The one guy yelled out, "You look like a 9-year-old's creative player," because he had like every piece of equipment on. He got the elbows, the sunglasses, the long hair, the stuff on his shins for, just everything. He was decked out. He made some held defensive plays, so a great player. But as the play stopped, I think there was a review going on. The second baseman was throwing the ball to the first baseman, back and forth a couple times to stay warm there. And Lynch was on first base, and the kid just at one point after they have a quick little exchange goes, well, hey, man, good luck in the ACC next year. So, it's not unheard of. These guys talk to each other. They joke around. Again, this game wasn't over at that point. It was still very much in question. It was a little bit of like, hey, I'm going to get in this young dude's head a little bit here. Maybe. But interesting that some of the guys talk like that even on the field as the game's literally going on. So, just a little tidbit, a little thing that I heard because I was close enough to hear it. Not everybody in the stands heard it. I was over there on the side watching that. Coach of the Year, not a surprise here. Kevin Schnall takes over for Gary Gilmore, who's a literal Hall of Fame coach, and he just continues to put this output out for Coastal Carolina baseball. Again, sellout crowd when I happen to go there and see the game against Clemson. So they're firing on all cylinders. Got a really great head coach there.
Hey, John, did he play in games? You assigned him stats.
He must have played in some games. Must have forgot to change the thing over there for that one. So,
hey, there you go, Coach. Good season.
Yeah, he was doing everything. That's why he was on here, because he was playing, he was coaching, getting it all done. So we'll have to see if he continues to do that for the tournament. decent batting average is what Buzzard Ball is saying. Yeah.
Hey,
we also have a new title here as Fan of the Year. We had Artie Cat on last year. He literally came on the show and helped us preview. I think he was on for the conference tournament show, wasn't he?
Don't try to bring us into buttering Artie up. This is all you, buddy. Artie, my apologies.
But yeah, we want to give a shout out to Fan of the Year, Ben James. He's an A-State fan, which is pretty obvious there. A big wrestling fan, so you get double points for that, right? He's always commenting, and he's definitely a Sunbelt addict. So shout out to Ben for always being around, checking in. He's sending messages on the backside asking when the show's going to be live, if the day of the show changes. So we love it, man. We really appreciate you coming on and having a good time with us each and every week. Artie as well. We got a ton of Southern Miss fans in here tonight, which is awesome. Obviously, it's a very exciting time for them as they get close to possible another championship game at the very least, maybe a championship trophy at the end of it as well. But I think that'll do it for the graphics portion of the show. Ben did ask earlier if we had any further predictions, but I think the easiest thing to say here is like any of the three of us would be kind of shocked or surprised if it wasn't Coastal and Southern Miss at the end, right?
I mean,
not entirely. One of the two for sure.
Yeah, that would be the biggest shock. If we show up on Sunday and Southern Miss nor Coastal played for the championship, that would shock me. Yeah. But no, I mean, there's, like we discussed, Troy, Marshall, a couple other teams could make a run and end up in the game. But once again, I'm going to rest on my laurels and say that a Morrison-Middleton championship game would be just the only way to end the season.
Yeah. Perfect.
It would be awesome. My thought process is like one of them would go earlier if someone had to stave off elimination, and then you get the matchup, but you don't get the pitching matchup. But again, I'd still be all for it. So I don't know. Any final thoughts? Obviously, we know for a fact we will have a number of teams in postseason baseball. So no matter what happens this weekend, we will continue to come at you live and give you some baseball updates, some breakdowns, some statistical stuff, because we're going to have to start looking into the teams that we don't know anything about, right? I mean, all season long, we feel like we've gotten to know these teams in the conference pretty well, but we're about to face a bunch of teams we know very little about, unless it's, an SEC team that we've heard about all season. So it'll be interesting. Attack Eagles does want to know who y'all got, USM or Coastal. So if it does come down there, Seth, let's start with you. Do you have Coastal or do you have the Eagles?
To the top.
All right. That was a quick, easy answer.
Pretty solid. I'm pretty solid with that pick.
Okay.
I don't know. So it depends on who's pitching. They both have their ace. I still don't know. But if one's got their ace and the other one doesn't, I could – I'm not trying to avoid the question. I've literally been sitting here trying to just pick one, and I can't. I'll tell you who wins. The fans. There's a cop-out answer for you. The fans win.
And we get to see it. And we would get to see it on a neutral field. That's the most important thing.
That's a very yes. I would think the Southern Miss might have a little bit more fans just because they're closer. I don't know, man. I can tell you this: I watch every damn pitch.
Yeah.
If I didn't see it live for some odd reason, I would go back and watch.
What time is the championship game on Saturday?
It is 1 p.m. Central Time, so that would make it 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, Destiny, don't you pump his tires? He's got a big enough ego. Don't do that.
Okay, I'll go back. I'll go back to this question real quick because I was lucky enough to see both teams live and in person this year. I saw Southern Miss against App State in Boone. I saw Coastal Carolina versus Clemson in Conway. If I had to lean one spot right now, and it's hard to say, right, because App State is not at Clemson's level, so it wasn't two equal, foes for both teams there. But the way I've seen Southern Miss hit the ball feels a little bit more consistent to me than what I've seen from Coastal. Now, Coastal across the board may have a little bit better pitching. Again, that's also kind of maybe a toss-up, but I think that's kind of the consensus is that Coastal is deeper throughout the entire pitching staff. But I think I trust the bats of Southern Miss a little bit more because I feel like they've been doing it a little bit better here. They're scoring more runs more consistently against a little bit better competition. So I'll go with the Eagles as well. That's where I'd lean, but not by a lot. I'd say it's a close game. Attack Eagle. I mean, they're still pumping you up here. It's Marv. That's soft.
It is soft. I copped out big time. I will admit to that.
Oh yeah. Well, you kind of have to. I mean, like you said, it really is true. We would, as the three of us are not hardcore fans of either of those teams, we would definitely win to get to see that matchup. 91 runs for the Eagles.
I'll say this. I dislike Southern Miss less than I dislike Coastal. So
there you go. Okay. There you go. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I love the interaction. It just goes to show once again. We'll just end on this note too. It goes to show that this is not a mid-major conference. Look how many people are in here interacting on a baseball show. We've got live viewership is touching football numbers. So if that tells you anything, it is a baseball conference. It's a football conference, obviously, first. It is a baseball conference second. And then in a distant third, actually, is basketball. But this conference, these people, these fans, they know and love their baseball. Show us more respect. Get us the hell out of that mid-major moniker and put us in the top 4, maybe even the top 3 some years. Not this year, probably, but top 4 conferences when it comes to baseball. And we will see you guys on the other side.
See ya.